if I can have everybody please rise for the national anthem. All right, I'll now ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Okay, seeing none, I'll look to the clerk for the motion to go into closed session.
The council now move into closed session to discuss item under section 239(2) subsection F of the Municipal Act 2001, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, planning advice. Item under section 239(2) subsection B and F of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, personnel matter. Item under section 239(2) subsection B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, update on the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario investigation, and minutes of the closed meeting of council held July 5th, 2017.
Okay, so if I can get a mover and a seconder to move into closed session, moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Hessels. All those in favor? That's carried. So we will now head into closed session and should be back shortly before 7. in closed session and received legal advice with respect to a planning matter and a human resources matter, and council also received an update on a current AGCO investigation. All right, so now we're moving into delegations, and tonight we have one delegation. We have, oh, there he is, Mr. Frank Memmi here, regarding lot size and hydrogeological study requirements. So Frank, if you don't mind coming over to the podium, and once you're there, just hit the red button, and that will turn the mic on if it lights up, and then you're ready to go.
My name is Frank Memmi. I live at 51067 Deeks Road in Wainfleet, and I'm here representing a delegation tonight of young people who are very, very concerned about costs that they will be faced with when they come to build their homes, not only in Wainfleet, but in other communities as well. Now, my first contention here is with the bylaw, which says that 1 acre of land requires a hydrogeological study. 1 hectare of land does not require such a study. Now, these 2 plot plans that I have here I left the names of the lots. They're on Memmi Court, and you people are all aware of these 2 lots here on Memmi Court. Lot 1 is, and these are only for illustration purposes. They're not lots that are going to be created. They're for illustration purposes. Lot 1 is 0.9 of an acre. Lot 4 is close to 4 acres. Now, Lot 1, if it were to be created today, it would require a study. Lot 4 would not require a study. And Lot 1, I feel that by requiring a study, it would really punish the purchaser of that lot, and it would probably be a first-time home buyer. Lot 4 would punish the purchaser of that study because he would have to buy 1 hectare, which is of land, which is about 2.5 acres. So the larger pieces of land, of course, would be more costly. Now, I have asked why. And the answers I got was, well, we need a hydrological study because we have to prove that the land that the septic bed will be put on is able to allow for the septic bed to function. But if we take a look at these 2, look at the location of the septic beds. They have both been designed to be at the front of the houses, right next to the road ditch and the swales. Now, in Lot 4 situation, you say, well, no, we don't need a study there because we have enough land. If there's a spillage or if there's a seepage, then there's enough land there to absorb the seepage. When we look at these 2, where do you think the seepage is going to go if there was a problem? Now, another thing, each one of these septic beds is about 8,000 square feet. That's 1/5 of an acre. You think that within an acre or even half an acre, there wouldn't be enough land to remedy the situation? Or do we need 2.5 acres to remedy the situation if seepage were to occur? This is totally out of control. Whoever made these decisions were not thinking about the costs. They were not thinking about our young people. They are the ones who are suffering right now from not being able to afford buying a home. So let's go on. And I asked about holding tanks. Oh, they're not allowed. Okay. Why are they not allowed? I was given 3 answers. One, oh, they're going to put pressure on the infrastructure. Well, the fact is that there's between 200 and 250,000 homes built in Canada every single year. And they're not putting pressure on the infrastructure. The minuscule number of homes that are being built on rural lots are going to put that kind of pressure on the infrastructure? Who thought up these cockamamie ideas? Another thing, spillage. We're afraid that if a truck that comes and pumps out these tanks, oh, we're afraid they're going to turn over on the highway and they're going to create a spill. Well, all they're going to create, this is a biodegradable material. All it's going to create is a stink. That's all. In the meantime, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of truckloads of hazardous materials running down our highways and our railways every single day. And when a spill occurs, when an accident occurs, they spread a pink material, a foam over them, and magically the things become disinfected. The whole area becomes okay. And they expect us to believe that? Another thing, it says the building code says so. Well, the building code is wrong. And it needs to be corrected. We have done a very good job, well, not a very good job, we've been pressured into doing a job of protecting our trees, our snakes, our frogs, and even our bats now. That's the latest one. Who is protecting our kids? There's nobody there to protect our kids from the pressures of cost upon cost upon cost. And so I ask why? Why does this exist? Why is it that in the development of, in a situation of development of a subdivision in a rural setting, there must be 150 feet frontage. And now they're demanding not only gravel, not only tar and chip, but now they're demanding asphalt. And each one of these lots is going to have to absorb the cost of asphalt. This is all on the shoulders of our young people. They are the ones who are going to feel the pain when they go in front of a banker for a mortgage, and the banker's going to say, no mortgage for you today because you're not making $350,000 a year. Oh, there's an answer to that. They can work for the government. They can work for the region. Which brings me to another thing. What the region has done in the last 2 weeks, in the last meeting that they had, doubled their development charges. How many people in this room know what development charges actually are? I don't think too many. And especially our young people who are unsuspecting, they're naive, they don't know what's going on in the world, they're not being taught in schools, they're not being taught in universities what these things are all about, and then all of a sudden they come up against a brick wall and they say, whoops, now where are we going to go? And you know, the social pressures that are being created by these costs to our young people, and the inability for them to be able to afford housing, which is one of the two most important things in our lives: a roof over our heads and food. The roof over our heads, or housing, is rapidly being denied. Food is so altered by now, genetically altered, that it's poison to our bodies. And there's evidences of that every single day, but we don't want to see it. So this leads to, what does it lead to? Social pressures. You know, I thought that terrorism was...
Frank, can I you're almost at your time, and I know it just seems like you might be going in a bit of a different direction than originally with the, you're here about the 1 hectare versus 1 acre lot. So like I say, we're almost at the 10-minute limit, and I know now we're starting to touch on social issues. And I get what you're doing. You and I have had this discussion before, so I know you're tying it in. But if we could kind of get back to the main delegation before time runs out, that would be.
I just want to make one point about terrorism. Can I do that? Okay.
Well, no, it's not.
I can't do that?
It's not germane to what you're talking about. Your delegation was specific to the hydrogeological study, and so we can't get into that. So if we can get back to what the main issue was.
Okay, then you say, what can we do? Here's what you can do. You can do what our Mayor Jeff did in the last meeting of the region, saying no, saying, give us back our land. You've taken our land. We are the ones that own the land. You don't own it, Mr. Region. We are the ones that own the land, and we're the ones that are going to administer the way that we see fit. And do it in a forceful way, not just by the vote, because you're going to get outvoted by them and their pressure groups that are idealists. Idealism has brought countries to their knees over the years, over and over and over again, and it's going to do it to us too. And this all goes back to costs to our young people who cannot afford. Poverty is created by government, and they're expecting developers to solve it. They're not going to solve it. Developers do not pay. It's the people that pay. I'll just leave it at that. I can go on and on and on.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Frank.
Any questions?
Yes. Does anybody have any questions for our delegation this evening? Okay. Seeing none. So thank you for the presentation. So I'll look for a motion from council members to receive Mr. Memmi's presentation. So moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. All those in favor, and that is carried. Okay. So now we don't have any presentations, we don't have any public hearings, so we are going to move on to my mayor's remarks really quickly. This past Sunday, I attended the Float Fest in Welland, and they made the Guinness Book of World Records, which was really, really cool, and it was amazing. I don't know if anybody in the room was there, but it was unbelievable, the amount of people that were there. So it was really, really well done, and I know there was there were donations and a food drive and different community-oriented things happening. So it was excellent, and it was great to be a part of that, and congratulations to all the organizers and volunteers to help make that happen. And yesterday, Lee and I, we continue, where is Lee? He's around some, there he is. Lee and I continue to do our visits to local businesses. So yesterday we visited Dakin Automotive and had a good discussion there. So we continue every Monday when we can to visit the local businesses. So we'll keep updating you on that, but they seem to appreciate us coming out, and we've had a good response and gathering good information. August 10th, I've been asked to do this in the past, and I've never seemed to be able to make it, but I will be presenting an award, one of the awards, at the Royal Canadian Henley Regatta. They ask all the local municipal representatives to participate, and so this year I was able to do it. So they are celebrating 135 years of top amateur rowing. So I'm looking forward to that. And then August 11th, there will be another SWIFT board meeting. So I don't have a whole lot of information right now on that initiative as it moves forward. We kind of been on hiatus for a couple months, but I will have that meeting on the 11th, and then that evening I will be at the Chamber of Commerce Lobster and Laughs event. So it's been a while since I've made it to that, so looking forward to that. And then coming up August 13th to the 16th, I will be attending the AMO conference, and I think I am the lone person from the township going this year to AMO. So I know I'm going to be part of a couple delegations. Welland wants to include Mayor Maloney and I. They're lining up something with the Minister of Health, and then I believe the region has a couple of delegations kind of collectively that we're going to participate in. So I'll keep everybody posted on that. So that's it for my mayor's remarks, and we will now go into the adoption of the minutes.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on July 18th, 2017 be adopted as circulated.
So I need a mover and a seconder for the minutes. Moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Hessels. Any errors or omissions on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried. And then we'll go into our first report.
That bylaw enforcement staff report BESR 6, 2017 regarding screening and hearing officer for the Township of Wainfleet and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder for that report. Moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Conk. I'm sure we've got questions on this one. Any questions from council members? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Mark, can you tell me, is the hearing and the screening done in Port Colborne? It's not done here, right?
Through you, Madam Mayor. The screening is done in-house,
Oh, okay.
but the hearing officer, if it gets approved by council, will be done in Port Colborne.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions from council members? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried.
That bylaw enforcement staff report BESR 7, 2017 regarding noise bylaw and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder. Moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any questions or discussions on that report? Alderman Hessels.
Yeah, so I take it you're going to come back with all the stipulations, like I guess I was looking at time, you're going to break it down to how long the noise can be, like you're going to have specific hours and all that. That's what the report's going to come back with?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the delegation that happened in March was just stipulated that some residents felt that the bylaw is in need of a review and a revamping. So this report is just to get council's direction if they want me to draft up a new bylaw for revisions, or it's council's wish however they want to proceed. But if council does wish me to go forward, then yes, I will be drafting up a new bylaw with some new regulations that are put forward from the MOECC and different areas.
And just going on from that, I don't think I have a real problem with that. I'd like to know when you do that, what the existing bylaw was to cover it, and then what your new one is proposing, just so we can see the difference and if it's worthwhile going ahead with it at that time.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't have an issue with that at all. A lot of the issues are just definitions and housekeeping related issues to separate items and clarify what constitutes a violation, where the violation exists, and put in a section for set fines. Because as of right now, if there is a violation, an officer, being myself or a police officer, has to witness the violation, and then we have to press court charges and go to court, where the new bylaw would have a set fine system where myself or a police officer could issue a Part 1 ticket right on the spot. So that stuff will be incorporated in there.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, then I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. And now we're on to the last report.
That Public Works Staff Report, PWSR 13, 2017, regarding an amendment to the cemetery bylaw, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So mover and a seconder for this report, moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. Any questions or concerns on this report? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. And now we're on to, correspondence. I was going to jump to bylaws. So I don't think there's anything that we have to deal with in correspondence. So if council doesn't wish to raise any of these specific items, we would just vote on the correspondence? No, that's it? Okay. I still have that a little bit turned around. Okay. So nobody wants to raise any issues of correspondence? All right. So now we will go on to the bylaws.
That the following bylaw be now read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this first day of August 2017. Bylaw number 38, 2017, being a bylaw to authorize the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet to execute a mutual and final release related to a confidential personnel matter involving the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet.
Alderman Gilmore?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would move that we defer that bylaw to the next meeting.
The next council meeting? Okay, can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Alderman Hessels. So I will call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried. All right, now on to the next bylaw.
That the following bylaw be now read a third time and finally passed this first day of August 2017. Bylaw number 36, 2017, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 and 36 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to amend bylaw number 34, 2014 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet as amended, entitled a bylaw to regulate the use of land and character, location, and use of buildings and structures thereon with respect to lands known municipally as 11705 Lakeshore Road.
Okay, mover and a seconder for the bylaw, moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. Any discussion? Alderman Conk.
Can we have a recorded vote, please?
Oh, sorry. Before you do that, I have Alderman Hessels.
Yeah. Could you, or the planner, I guess I want them to explain what we are actually voting on here, because I believe it is the bylaw on the MDS, if I'm correct.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Hessels. So what you're voting on is the zoning bylaw amendment for this property. So it set out zoning provisions for setbacks, height for each of the individual units. And then as per your amendment at the previous council meeting, we've included that section about the MDS and the area farms not being able to expand because of this development. So that has been included in the bylaw as item number 7.
Okay, that's my point. And I guess why I'm saying that, so voting no against this would say, if I'm reading it right, that you're not putting any rules and regulations on this thing. Right now, I think we're protecting the residents by doing this. So just, if I'm not correct, could you confirm or?
Through your worship to Alderman Hessel, so that's correct. So at the previous council meeting, by adopting my staff report, you approved the plan of condominium. And so this bylaw is now to set the zoning regulations for the land. So when they, if the conditions are fulfilled at the plan of condominium and they come in for a building permit, I now have regulations with which to review those permits against.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we really knew what we were voting on.
Okay, so we will do a recorded vote.
Alderman Gilmore,
In favor?
Alderman Hessels,
In favor?
Alderman Conk,
Opposed?
Mayor Jeffs.
In favor. Okay, so now we will move on to notices of motion, and I will look to Alderman Conk, who I think has a full motion, am I right? Okay.
Okay, through you, Madam Mayor, at the last council meeting, I asked the question if we could have 3.3.3.12 amended, only because I do realize it's site-specific, but I think in the future, without some people not understanding the background of what's gone on with this particular site-specific bylaw, they may not interpret it correctly. So that's why I have come up with the motion that I've come up with. So it's notwithstanding any other policies to the contrary on lands located in part lots 16 and 17, concession 1 of residential development on approximately 10.3 hectares of land shall be A, permitted to a maximum of 35 units, and B, permitted through a plan of condominium on sustainable private services subject to the following servicing requirements. The condominium corporation shall be responsible for the operation, maintenance, and costs associated with the sustainable private services with adequate provision for replacement of these systems in the future, and in the event that the Ministry of the Environment requires the region to be included in an assumption agreement with the condominium corporation for these systems, the conditions of the assumption agreement shall be to the satisfaction of the region. The Township of Wainfleet shall not be responsible for providing for or the installation, upgrading, or maintenance of any communal water and sewer services.
Okay, so I'll get a seconder for that motion, and then I'm going to just ask Sarah to speak to that. So is there a seconder for that motion? Alderman Hassels? Okay, so Sarah, what essentially does this change then? So we're looking for an official plan amendment. So how will this roll out then if this is approved tonight? And what essentially will this change?
Through your worship, to all of council, by changing the wording, it really doesn't change the result. So the result is still that the region would enter into a municipal responsibility agreement. So the changing of the wording wouldn't change that outcome in terms of what the applicant had to do. I'll just note that too, that it should be 41 units because that's what's been approved as well. That wasn't read in the motion. So no matter what the wording says here, at the end of the day, the region will have to enter into that municipal responsibility agreement. So by changing the wording, it doesn't change the outcome, but it would be a full planning public process that we'd have to go through to change the wording in that policy.
And do you have a rough idea of cost? Like, I know there's the staff time I know an official plan amendment it's a pretty big thing to do. So is it just staff time that's the cost associated with that, or?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there would be staff time, and if at all we needed some sort of outside help for justification for that wording, but certainly it would be reviewed by the region as they are the upper tier. But essentially the time would be staff time in preparing and going through the public process.
Does anybody have any questions? So Sarah, you made the comment that the figure is wrong. So do we need to make an amendment then to that, or?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would suggest that if Alderman Conk can make an amendment to her motion to reflect the 41 units, yes.
So a seconder for that motion? Okay, Alderman Hessels. So all those in favor on amending it to the current 41? Okay, sorry, call the question. Okay, so now any further questions on Alderman Conk's motion as amended? Alderman Hassels.
Under those 60 recommendations we had for this site-specific, wasn't that included in there already too?
Through your worship to Alderman Hessels, yes. So the municipal responsibility agreement was one of the conditions of the plan of condominium.
So I understand the wording on here and that it's site-specific. If somebody else comes with a thing, it is site-specific. So I don't know, we could go through a process, I guess, and do it, but I'm not sure why we would do it. So.
Okay, any further questions or comments on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, and that's defeated. All right, so we don't have any proclamations this evening. So does anybody have other business? Alderman Conk, we'll look to you.
Actually, I do have several. I got a call from a resident today who was extremely concerned with regards to a property that is being sold and has confirmed that that property is now going to become a marijuana operation. So I'm asking the questions that were asked of me. So currently, the federal government we don't have a lot to say about marijuana operations for the licensed grow-ops, if that's what they're called. So do they come to council as part of that process of getting the license?
I'm going to look to Sarah, I'm not sure.
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, I don't know that they come to the municipality in terms of obtaining the license, but we do have zoning provisions. So a medical marijuana facility is permitted in all of our agricultural zones, so A1 through A4, but that's subject to a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment. So there would be a public planning process. So they would have to come in and apply for that zoning bylaw amendment. There would be a public meeting at council, and then a bylaw would have to be passed by council to permit that. There's also site plan criteria for medical marijuana facilities that they would have to meet as well.
So excuse me, so the property I've been apprised of already has greenhouses on it. So I guess they would just be making the application for the license itself. Does the township get notified at any point in time that they're making an application for a license? And if they don't have to go through the process, if something's already zoned properly because there's already greenhouses on the property and it's an agricultural use that's already happening on that property, so do we get notice that they might be applying for a license, or is that not something that's talked about?
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, I'm not up to date on the licensing process because that is handled by the federal government. Right. So I'm not sure if the municipality is notified when someone makes an application for a license. But in terms of them then establishing that use in the township, they have to meet the zoning bylaw requirements. So if it was a greenhouse that was growing flowers before, and now they're introducing medical marijuana facility, they still have to meet the zoning requirements, which requires a site-specific zoning. Okay. So we adopted this as part of the new zoning bylaw in 2014. And to my knowledge, we haven't been approached for an application for a zoning bylaw amendment for a medical marijuana facility. So so we don't have any existing under this. Since 2014, we haven't done a site-specific.
So I'm just making a large assumption that there are minimum setback requirements to neighboring properties?
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, yes, there's a minimum of 150 meters from the lot line of any residential or institutional use or zone to the medical marijuana facility.
And if I can continue, what about the odor? Because there's definitely, I live just down the road from a medical marijuana operation, and the odor is quite horrible some days. So how is that going to be dealt with? Is that a civil matter?
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, I can't speak to that because I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Certainly the intent of the distance, the setback proposed was to mitigate some of that. But I am not up to speed on kind of the licensing process with the federal government and what they have to satisfy the federal government in terms of those nuisances.
Okay. I'm also wondering,
Alderman, are you moving on to something different now?
Yeah.
Oh, because Alderman Hessel's
Okay,
just,
sure.
he was, I think, intrigued by what you were asking, so.
Yeah. Well, you did send me to a thing there with Dean Allison and OPP and a few other ones. And I guess with the licenses, there's kind of a discrepancy. There's the commercial guys. They've got to follow all the rules and regulations. The licensed ones that we're having problem with is a bunch of people getting together, grow and getting a license to produce. And
Okay.
that's the ones you're talking about. And yet, they don't know how to control it yet either. I know it's a problem. I'm not sure, because I think West Lincoln's in a position too, some farm property there, they're gonna do it. So it was a problem, they acknowledge it. And then there's also the homegrown ones, like you can grow 2 plants outside and I think 4 plants inside. So like, there's so many different licenses out there. But the commercial ones, those are the ones we would want to attract, because odor or anything, they are so regulated, cameras, and
Okay.
it's the licensed ones that are the problem.
all right. Also, I was going, in preparation for last council meeting, I was going through the official plan, and I think I asked at that council meeting what density policy is in the official plan. It was talked about in several of the reports, but I couldn't find it in our official plan, and I'm just wondering if somebody can give me a definition on what density policy is and where it is found in the official plan.
Sarah, is that something you'll be able to find tonight, or is that something that maybe?
Through your worship, can we circle back to that, or I can get back to Alderman
That-
Conk?
You can get back to me.
Okay, I brought the official plan, but I'll have to take a few minutes to leaf through it and find the section. I know it's in there, I just don't know the number off
Okay.
the top of my
And
head.
just one more thing. On page, being as you have yours out, on page 2, table 1, it says it's deferred. How is that possible? How did we, this council, defer it, or did the region defer that?
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, the region deferred that table 2.
Can I ask why? It's our official plan. Why did they defer it?
I think that was before Sarah's time, so what is it again that we're saying was deferred?
It's population and total employment and those figures, population figures. It's been deferred, and I'm just curious as to why it was deferred. What's
Yeah,
the
I
purpose of the deferral?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Conk. I can't speak to the reason for why it was deferred, because I don't know, but the region is in charge of allocating population and employment to the lower tier municipalities, and they made the decision to defer it. I am not personally aware of why that decision was made, but certainly we could get back to you on that.
So if they deferred it for our official plan, did they defer it for everybody else's official plan too? I mean, that's a question I would like to have answered.
We can look into that.
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, anybody else have any other business? Alderman Gilmore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly to Adam, I just wondered if you had a chance to speak with Randy regarding my question about the building permit fees that I brought up at the last meeting.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Gilmore. Yes, I spoke to Randy, and we'll be bringing a report to you, or to council at the next meeting, so August 22nd.
Ted? Alderman Hessels?
Yeah. Okay, it's maybe it's off of Betty's thing there, because we are getting reports like I see 2,580 new builds in the next 5 years in Wainfleet, and I don't, where would these people be getting this number from? I don't know if the planner can answer that.
You're referring to,
Well, we got a letter from somebody, and they're making these accusations that there's going to be 2,600 new homes in the next 5 years in Wainfleet. So I'm not sure, like, how do you respond to that? Like, I don't know where, if he's getting these numbers from someplace, or
so I don't know if the planners can answer, but we'll.
Through your worship to Alderman Hessels, quite honestly, I don't know where that individual is getting the numbers from or how he's doing the math to arrive to that number. I don't understand where that figure came from.
okay, wouldn't that be a number for the whole Niagara region more than, like, that's, so I don't know, I just found that's the story that's going around, and I couldn't understand where that number come from. So, but looks like Betty might.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in the official plan, on Table 1, which has been deferred by the region, it indicates total households for 2031 as 3,010.
Total households.
Yep. Population 7,900.
So and what do we have now? So
Total households, I know when I ran in the 2010 election, it was like 2,916 or something.
So that number is skewed, like total household, that's only, maybe 100 more. So if that's where he's getting his numbers from. And I think we did a strategic plan too, right? When Dobbs was here, kind of. So maybe the region was kind of waiting for our outcome on that. I'm not sure if that but's brought forward, but it was kind of like a zero growth for Wainfleet.
David?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, Table 2, the number lists total households. It's a cumulative number, so for 2006, the number would be, it says 2,390. For 2011, it says 2,510. So the difference of that would be 120 households in that 5-year period, just to clarify the math there.
Okay, so if there isn't any other business, then we'll move to the confirming bylaw.
That bylaw number 39, 2017, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council at its regular meeting held on the first day of August 2017, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this first day of August 2017.
So we need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Conk. All those in favor? That's carried. And then I need a motion to adjourn. Alderman Conk, Alderman Gilmore, all those in favor? And that's carried.